Namaste and welcome to our channel Indian History and Culture, where we narrate saga of Indian history through time, ancient to contemporary. India has had a rich historical tradition, but one process which fascinates the mind of every individual is the story of the Indian freedom struggle. So let us talk about the first chapter of the Indian freedom struggle, that is the Great Rebellion of 1857. Also termed as the Revolt of 1857, the Indian Uprising of 1857, the first War of Independence, or as the British termed it, the Indian Mutiny. 1857 revolt happened exactly a century after the story of the East India Company's rise to power began. From the battlefields of Plassey in 1757, in the month of June, when they defeated the Nawab, to a century later in May 1857, when the first major challenge to the company's authority and the English rule happened in the Indian subcontinent. It was 100 years of exploitation, brutal policies of economic exploitation of the peasantry, of the weavers, of the traders, the merchants, and every segment of Indian society that led to the Great Uprising of 1857. Apart from the economic exploitation of the Indian people, there was a series of other political, military and social factors as well which led to the rebellion. The doctrine of lapse and the annexation of numerous princely states, whether it was Jhansi, Udaipur, Nagpur, Sambalpur, is a well-known fact. Rani Lakshmi Bai is a household name in India and also an internationally known figure. Along with that, Nana Sahib Peshwa, whose pension was stopped by the company's rule, Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was humiliated. There were other political princes, displaced zamindars, who all came together in challenging the British might. But perhaps the most important reason behind this great uprising was the socio-cultural one. The interference of the English in the Indian customs, traditions, religion, along with that, the missionary zeal, which was also one of the factors behind the rebellion of 1857. So all these factors came together. But when it comes to the socio-cultural factors, it was the most important factor. It was the introduction of new schemes, different policies which resulted in the great outburst. Whether it was the General Services Enlistment Act of 1856, which affected the sepoys and their beliefs, because that would lead to a loss of caste if they crossed the high seas, or whether it was the introduction of a new rifle and a new cartridge which was supposed to be greased with cow and pig fat, something that went against the beliefs of both Hindus and Muslims of India, something that brought in a unity that was not seen before. Though there were rebellions which happened against the British Raj even prior to 1857, the most important perhaps being the Vellore Mutiny or the Vellore Rebellion about 5 decades earlier in 1806, 1807. But it was in 1857 that we see some kind of unity being achieved, at least in the northern and central parts of India, where political princes and along with that, other displeased nobles and zamindars came together to fight against this foreign domination. But it began as a mutiny, when on the 10th of May 1857, sepoys from Meerut took over the control of the cantonment and marched towards Delhi. There's a very interesting story as to how it may have happened. Now it is a folk tale. Evidences are supporting it as well as some are evidences which question it. But it was the women of Meerut who in a way insulted the sepoys that the British are interfering with our religious beliefs and the sepoys are doing nothing, they're not manly enough. So why don't the sepoys wear bangles? It was the masculinity of the sepoys which was challenged, and it is said that the sepoys decided to take over the cantonment on the same day and march to the city of Delhi, where they came and proclaimed Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India. In this declaration, they stated that the reason they have rebelled against the British Raj is because the British Raj affected their socio-cultural and religious beliefs. So it was the sepoys themselves who were saying that it was the socio-religious factor which propelled them to challenge the might of the British Empire in India. Once Bahadur Shah Zafar was proclaimed as the Emperor of India, The rebellion started in numerous centers spread across the northern Indian part. Nana Sahib Peshwa, Rani Lakshmi Bai, Begum Hazrat Mahal from Awadh and numerous other individuals joined this rebellion. What started as a mutiny had transformed into something which was much more than that. So to call it as a mutiny, as the British called it for their own political convenience, it in fact became a rebellion of a great strength, wherein it was also the commoners who joined the rebellious cause, particularly in the region of Awadh. We also see cases of the rebellion spreading in southern and certain other parts of India too, but it still remained concentrated in the northern and central Indian regions. But when it comes to the revolt of 1857 and the participation of women in this rebellion, one name that is often mentioned from the school curriculum to even the popular conception is that of Rani Lakshmi Bai, the Rani of Jhansi, the Queen of Jhansi, because of the Hindi poem that was made on her. खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वो तो झांसी वाली रानी थी, बुंदेले हर बोलो के मुंह हमने सुनी कहानी थी. But along with Rani Lakshmi Bai, there were other women also who were actively engaged not only in spreading the cause of the rebellion, but planning and executing the rebellion as well. One name is Azizun Bai. Azizun Bai was a tawaif, a courtesan. The moment we say a courtesan, a tawaif, we have a very negative connotation attached with the term and the profession. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to impose the ideas and concepts of our present times to an idea that existed in the 19th century, which was very different. The tawaifs had a socially elite position. They had access to power and they also were propertied and played an influential role in the events that were taking place around them. Azizun Bai played a very important role in the planning and execution of the rebellion around the Kanpur region. But her role is not often a remembered one, perhaps because of her profession. Just like her, there are numerous other women and numerous other stories that are often forgotten in the great annals of the revolt as well as of the Indian freedom struggle. The revolt of 1857 nonetheless was a serious challenge to the British might. It challenged the British Empire's very existence into India. It has been therefore called as the first war of independence, wherein some degree of political unity came in, trying to overthrow the foreign yoke. But to call it as the first war of independence has been a debate. Indian mutiny has been often rejected as too insignificant a term. First war of independence has been a generally acceptable term. But what it was in reality was something between it. It did not conceive the idea of liberating India as a nation, though there was some degree of political unity achieved. Nationalism had begun. Though this was still a clash between the old order of feudalism and the new order of imperialism, but the common people would be liberated from the old and the new orders of exploitation, eventually by the freedom struggle. It was this freedom struggle which started a few years after this great rebellion of 1857. But the people of India would have to wait longer to achieve complete freedom from both the new as well as the old orders of exploitation. The intelligentsia, the emerging middle class, educated middle class, opposed the rebellion for its regressive ideas. And it was this middle class which would eventually lead the freedom struggle, which would include every individual, a fight for his and her rights and equality.